You can close your eyes while you do this. You can keep them open. You might want to keep them open if you're following me this time. But we're going to start just by doing a firm tap to our karate chop point. Yeah. Any hand, it doesn't matter where you start. And then we're going to switch sides. And we're going to come up to above our forehead.
If you have glasses, you might want to take
them
off.
Yeah, if you have glasses, you might want to. And then we're going to go to the side of our eyes. And then to our cheekbones. At this point, you might start to feel some lightness in your head or a gentle tingling feeling. And then we're going to come down to right below our nose or above our lip. Just breathing gently as we do it. And then to our chins. Many of my students call this the goatee. And then the heart point, right up below your collarbone. And we're going to switch to under our arms, getting some more of those adrenal glands. We call this the monkey arm. If you just come in, just join right in.
They're like, no way.
Then switch to the other side. And then we're going to end with our crown. Maybe it's your queen's crown, your king's crown. I like it to be my warrior's crown. Mary Ellen, what do you like it to be?
Queen of the universe.
Whatever works for you. And then just, as you're doing the last few taps, give yourself a positive affirmation and a nice thought. Thank yourself for getting here tonight. And then take a deep breath. And just up and let it out. And just sit down when you're ready and just feel your body for a moment. Whatever sensations come.
Okay, the next activity we're going to do is something just to connect us, and it's called cross the line if you're standing in a line, but we're just going to have you stand up where you're in chairs. So if you have felt like this in the last month, I'm going to read a statement, just stand up, and you may want to just look to your left and right. In the last month, have you become upset because of something? Have you ever felt controlled by the demands of others, such as family, co-workers, or friends? I am standing. Take a look around. Okay, you may be seated. In the last month, have you been upset because of something that happened unexpectedly? If you have, stand up. I'm standing. Wow. A lot of out-of-control people here. Thank you. You may sit down. In the last month, if you have ever felt that you are unable to control the important things in life, please stand up. I'm standing. In the last month, or in the last few minutes maybe, have you felt nervous, anxious, stressed? Stand up. Looks like we're all in the right place. You may be seated. In the last month, have you felt you could not cope with all the things you had to do? If so, stand up. Thanksgiving is coming back to me. You may sit down. What did you see? All right, this is the last one. In the last month, have you ever felt the things you had to accomplish pile up so high that you will have trouble completing all of them? Yeah. Just take a little gander around the room. Okay. So you may be seated now. One of the things that I firmly believe is that we have more in common than not in common. And the two things that I always tell my students at school is we all want to be loved and we all want to have our voices heard. And I think you just have your voice heard in a way because you let people know that you have struggles like they do. So we all have things in common. And mindfulness is just one other way that we can connect with each other and try to keep things on a more equal level. So hopefully we'll learn some things done. So, this is a combination of both of us. Can you hear me? Do you need a microphone?
No.
Okay. So this is a combination of the both of us. You'll see that I am on the top. That is Oscar night. I won for this costume. I was Meryl Streep when she played, I forget, it was Florence, somebody who was an Oscar singer. Do you remember that movie? She was very flamboyant, not a very good voice, had awesome costumes, so I was drawn immediately to the character. And I actually made the whole costume. That crown goes all the way up. I had big wings on that she wore in one of her presentations. So I go with 6 friends of mine every year. We've done it for 30 years, 30 plus years. And we have an actual Golden Globe that you win if your costume is the best costume. So I have taken it most years. And I proudly took it that year. But one of the reasons I got into mindfulness, actually there were a few reasons. One of the reasons was I'm a prayer and I continue to pray. I pray all the time. Ms. Chapman knows this. Being in the office, she knows that I used to do. I would pray for everybody and everything. And that always worked for me. And then I had some struggles that were more difficult for me. My mother has Alzheimer's and I'm her chief caretaker. So it's hard to go and see her on a daily basis when she doesn't always know what day it is. She always knows me, but she doesn't know what is happening in the world. And I was so close with my mother that I would go in to go to visit her, and I try to visit her almost daily. And I get like anxious, and I get that sick feeling in my stomach because I didn't know who I was going to meet. And then I had an opportunity to take a couple of classes. The Hopkinton Educational Foundation offered 3 years ago a grant that Sam had written, and we, 12 teachers from the middle school and high school, took the courses. And at the time I was the assistant principal and I took the course. And then I had a chance to take a course at Harvard University for 3 days where I sat for 3 days silently. It changed my life, completely changed my life. No electronics, not anything. But not to talk to anyone. And there were people who gave guided meditations. And I came back and I felt so light. And I also knew how to go in to see my mother. So I would go in and I would meet the person who was there that day. She's delightful. She's not the mother that raised me. She's not the mother I knew through most of my life. But she's a very nice person. And it's delightful to visit with her. I also have 4 grandchildren, and I don't want to miss a minute of anything with them. So I am completely present when they're there. And they love coming over because they know that Papa and Nana are going to give them everything and every minute and every, anything they want, they get within reason. And it's just such a delight to really be present. And I see my daughters struggling with that because they're working. They're, all texting on the phone, they're ordering things they need, they're cleaning the house. But when they come to me, everything stops. And it's a wonderful, wonderful thing. So I want that for you. So that's how mindfulness came into my life.
So I'm on the bottom.
Different picture.
That's me sitting in a spot in my house. If you flip it over, I like to just land on the top of my stairway and look down when I'm having a tough day. For those of you who don't know, I'm a teacher at the middle school. I also have 3 beautiful children, and had the experience to do a year-long with mindful schools so I could become certified as a mindfulness educator. When I think of my journey with mindfulness, I actually think back to when it started, which I think my earliest memory was 4 years old. And my mom, who's sitting in the audience tonight, there were 2 big trees in our yard, and she had put 2 swings, one on each tree. And these were the kind of swings that had the really long ropes so you could really, really get your swing on. And I would swing on those swings for hours and hours and hours. And I can remember the feeling of swinging and having the breeze go through my hair and feeling it on my back, of losing my stomach 100 times over as I went up and down and up and down. I can remember seeing the world from up high and then below and listening to the birds. And I was in pure joy. And I didn't know it at the time, but I was being truly mindful and aware. So when I fast forward a few years later as a teenager, I wasn't so mindful and aware. I had a debilitating depression for many years. We were scared for the safety of my life many days. And there was a moment, I was in the hospital, and there was this man he was a much, much older man than I was. And he was also, had been in the hospital over and over again for depression. And I was looking at him one day and being just super aware and observing him and thinking, how can he not see the beauty in himself? And in that moment I paused and I thought, how can I not see the beauty in myself? And at that moment I was aware enough to think, this is awareness, this is mindfulness. And so from that point, I started to really learn about mindfulness and different restorative practices, and just continue to bring it into my life in any way I could. And I just noticed as I keep getting more deeply into mindfulness, I keep becoming a stronger person, more aware of the beauty within myself and the beauty within others. And so I think to myself, with this question of why do I choose this work, the only answer I have is how could I not choose this work?
So we do have some goals for you tonight. We want to make sure that you understand what mindfulness is before you leave. Also, how mindfulness can support our well-being, and I think we're always looking to improve that. We're going to do some practice sessions so you have a feel of what it can be, the different types of mindful exercises you can do. And we're also going to show you or tell you how you can integrate mindful practice into your life one step at a time. And I will tell you, it's one of the things you don't need an outfit for, which was very disappointing to me because I like to have an outfit for everything. You don't have to have a place for it. You can do it when you're just standing or just sitting. You just need to have your own breath and be able to just concentrate and give yourself that freedom. So what is mindfulness?
Yeah,
so we're going to talk about it.
Raise your hand if you've ever been asked to pay attention. Okay. Keep your hand up if you've ever been directly taught how to pay attention. All right. So mindfulness is paying attention on purpose without judgment. It's being aware of the present moment and all the sensations that are going on within you, and also being aware of everything going around you. The non-judgment part comes with compassion. So we get down on ourselves a lot, We also get down on other people a lot. And when we become mindful, we learn about this thing called heartfulness. And it's about bringing heart into everything. So if a thought floats into your mind, no matter, you're not judging whether it's a good thought or a bad thought, it's just a thought, and you're meeting it with love. Why is it important to be aware in this way? Well, we have stimulus coming at us at 100 miles every day, and it's hard to stop it. Without mindfulness, we react. With mindfulness, we can respond in a way that is probably going to work in our best interest and the best interest of others around us. And this next video is going to say a little more about that.
Okay, this video is from Dan Harris. He's a news reporter for ABC, and he wrote a book called 10% Happier. And I got to see him speak, which was really great, and I had read the book. He actually had a meltdown on TV, on the news, one evening, and had to do something. He couldn't control himself, and he had to figure out a way to help him. So he actually talks about his journey in 10% Happier. And if you are interested in that, I have the book at home, so you can borrow it from me. Don't buy it. I'll just email me. But this is a little clip, and it really describes what it means to be mindful.
You may have heard this word mindfulness. It's become something of a buzz phrase of late. I'm going to give you one simple, serviceable definition, which is this. Mindfulness is the ability to know what's happening in your head at any given moment without getting carried away by it. Imagine how useful this could be. Just as an example, you're driving down the road and somebody cuts you off in traffic. How do you normally react? I think most of us, we normally react by having a thought, which is, I'm pissed. And then what happens next? You immediately, habitually, reflexively inhabit that thought. You actually become pissed. There's no buffer between the stimulus and your reaction. With just a little bit of mindfulness, in that same situation, you might notice my chest is buzzing, my ears are turning red, I'm having a starburst of self-righteous thoughts, I'm getting angry. But you don't necessarily have to act on it and chase that person down the road, screaming at them with your kids in the back of the car thinking you've gone nuts. Now, you might be thinking, don't I need to get angry sometimes? Aren't I justified? I would say yes, but probably not as much as you think. The proposition here is not that you should be rendered by mindfulness into some lifeless, non-judgmental blob. The proposition is that you should learn how to respond wisely to things that happen to you, rather than just reacting blindly. And that, my friends, is a superpower. How do you get it? The way to get it is through meditation. I believe that meditation and mindfulness are the next big public health revolution. In the 1940s, if you told somebody you were going running, they would have said, who's chasing you? But then what happened next? The scientists swooped in, they showed that physical exercise is really good for you, and now all of us do it, and if we don't, we feel guilty about it. And that's where I think we're headed with mindfulness and meditation. It's going to join the pantheon of no-brainers like brushing your teeth, eating well, and taking the meds your doctor prescribed for you. Let me just close by saying, mindfulness is not going to solve all of your problems. It's not going to render your life a nonstop parade of unicorns and rainbows. Nonetheless, this is a superpower, and one that is accessible by you immediately.
So I like the way Dan Harris explains it. It's just a really simple way for us to understand. So we know what mindfulness is if you look at that, but what mindfulness isn't. First of all, it's not a disciplinary tactic. My daughter was really excited about mindfulness when I first told her that she has 3 kids, and she thought this will be great, they're so out of control. And it's not that. You don't use it in discipline. It doesn't bring you only calmness and happiness. Wouldn't that be great if it did, though? It's not a silver bullet for everything that ails you. It's not the absence of thought, and it's not religious. So those are the things that it is not. It is more like what Dan Harris explained. right here, I think this is a way better explanation than anybody could give. These are students from our school. They were in the 7th grade at the time. I think most of them are in the 9th grade right now that are in this. You may recognize some of them. But they are giving their definition of mindfulness and how they found it useful in school and outside of school.
To me, mindfulness means being aware of where you are, who you are, how you can move.
Being able to go into things mentally prepared and ready to do it.
It means sort of calming yourself down and not really paying attention to anything else.
Mindfulness is something that lets you take a step back
And just be able to stay calm and have a clear state of mind.
It's kind of a way to like stop the violent reactions and kind of think about what you're doing, and it kind of helps with stress and other stuff like that.
Mindfulness is kind of practicing your way of calming yourself down in stressful situations.
I kind of always knew mindfulness was like a thing, but I never really like thought about it or tried it.
So we use it in class a lot before class begins.
I really feel like I've been more relaxed in life, and just like when I have a situation that I'm uneasy about, I kind of go into my own little world and I calm down.
Well, sometimes during the day, like I get really excited for like the end of the day and stuff, and I know I need to focus like during a test or a quiz or something, and I can use mindfulness to help me.
It really helps me calm down, and it helps me get through hard things in life, I guess.
I feel like mindfulness is more of a concept, and it's not something that's physical. So breathing can help, but it's more taking what you know and putting that into a real life situation and doing something that you feel is more right than something that you would have done.
You might not get worked up so easily. You can think about what you're going to do and battle the situation instead of just going straight at it and maybe doing something you might regret.
I kind of did the thing where you like count how much breaths you do, and I kind of just helped calm me down like with stress.
Like everything, you can use it. If I'm nervous before like a big game, I can just like think about how I'm gonna play, and it's just like helpful, like getting ready for something that's challenging.
Life isn't about what happens to you, it's about how you react and if you like get up or not. And so I feel like mindfulness is really important because you have the ability to choose the right thing instead of just reacting to what happens.
I love the way our students describe it, how it's used in the classroom and how it helps them. And I just think they're adorable to watch too, and seeing them 2 years later is really fun. But they have the definition down. They understand how to use it, and how to use it in their classroom, outside of school, sports, whatever they need that centering. It really helps.
So now we're going to get into a little bit more about how mindfulness supports well-being. I'm just going to start with this very beautiful video.
I get really mad when my brother hits me a lot.
I don't like it when you say you don't want to play with me.
When I'm mad, my brain can get a headache and it can start hurting.
Your blood keeps pumping because you're like really mad. And you start to get sweaty because you're getting really, really mad. And then when you start getting really mad, you turn red.
When your body can't really control yourself, mad just takes over your body. You just get out of control.
It's kind of like if you had a jar and then the jar would be your brain, and then you put glitter in the jar, and that would be how you were feeling. If you shook up the jar and the glitter went everywhere, that would be how your mind looks. And it's like spinning around, and then you don't have any time to think. And you sometimes punch stuff and people when you don't really mean it.
When I get angry, I feel it in my heart.
I really don't like when I get angry. The amygdala really reacts, but the prefrontal cortex tries to keep it down.
When I feel like I want to, get really angry and yell, I just sometimes, take deep breaths. First you find a place where you can be alone, then you find some way to relax and calm down. When I need to calm down, I take deep breaths. I breathe in through my nose. Sometimes I close my eyes or just take deep breaths.
It's calming down, it's not moving. It's slowing down and then it stops. And the heart pumps slow and then it goes into your brain. It's like all the sparkles are at the bottom of your brain.
My brain slows down, and then I feel more calm, and then I'm ready to speak to that person.
So we often don't get the chance in our life and in our busy days to just breathe. Busyness seems to be what's valued in our world. And when we're so busy and all that stuff is coming at us and we never have the time to just sit and breathe or give ourselves the time to sit and be, it actually damages our brain. There's been a little bit of talk in these videos about the amygdala and the prefrontal cortex and stimulation. Well, when stimulation comes into us, it first goes to our amygdala, and our amygdala is that fight or flight response. It tells us, you're in trouble, you better get away. If we're never taking that time to breathe, or no one's ever giving us that time to breathe, our amygdala starts overreacting, and it literally gets bigger. When we practice mindfulness, we allow the stimuli to reach the amygdala and then go to the prefrontal cortex, where it goes next. So then the prefrontal cortex can decide, okay, do I need to run, or is this not a life or death situation, and how do I want to respond? Science has proven that with mindful practice, the amygdala actually shrinks, and the chemistry of your mind, of your brain, is in balance and promotes well-being.
Okay, so scientists have also been studying the benefits of mindfulness for 30 plus years, and it was mostly in adults. Recently, they've been studying it in youth, and what they find is it gives better focus and concentration. And I can tell you, I was just thinking as Sam was talking about a middle school schedule. When you're in the 8th grade and you're on a middle school schedule, there is no time between classes. So you are coming from math, and oftentimes math test, to an English essay, and then running to band, And if that is going on all day and there's no time to just sit and take a breath, then you can imagine how their brains are going. They're already going like that anyway, and then just to bring them. So I think that the benefits for children and adults is underestimated. It's great for social, emotional skills, because it's good at self-regulation. This afternoon I was in Hillablock with someone, and I was talking with a boy, and I was cutting the hearts out, and he said, "What is that for?" And I said, Mrs. Harris and I are running a mindfulness set for parents. Why aren't you doing that for us? And I said, well, maybe we will. That might be a good idea. I said, we do practice here, you know that. But he said, I want to know more about it, you know. And I thought that's a great suggestion. So it teaches children and adults to be more compassionate. It also helps decrease stress, anxiety, and depression. And don't we all need at least a little less stress in our lives? So it's a great way of being if you choose to adopt it.
All right, so there was a study out of Harvard Medical School, and it was done by this professor, and it talked about the happiness factor. The happiness factor, which was proven, is that if a happy person walks into a room and makes a connection with another person, their happiness literally travels from that person to the next person that person meets, to the next person that person meets. So 3 degrees from the original person that was happy. So right now, everybody just think a happy thought, all right? And put it out there and maybe even laugh out loud and spread the happiness. But though it hasn't been proved that mindfulness will reach somebody 3 degrees yet, it has been proved that when there's a mindful presence in the room, it creates a difference for the people in the room. So when you have a daily mindful practice, you continuously build your mindful awareness and your mindful presence, and you can hold it for longer and maintain it for longer periods during the day and notice more and be more aware. And in return, be more aware for those around you who may not understand mindfulness or know that it even exists, but they can benefit from it because you're being mindful. So then just imagine that. If every one of us in this room chose to practice mindfulness on a daily basis, or taught someone else how to practice mindfulness on a daily basis, just when we walked in the room, we'd be affecting everyone around us. And maybe one day they'll prove the happiness factor is also true for mindfulness.
Okay, so we're going, is this thumbs up? Yep, okay. So we're going to do a practice together, and you can choose to remain seated or you can stand. My students decide whether they want to sit or stand, and I always tell everyone in the room also, if you don't want to do it, you don't have to do it. You just have to be quiet and respectful. So you can sit or you can stand with your, if you're sitting, you're going to sit nice and straight, back straight, heads to the sky, and then you're going to make sure your feet are flat on the floor, so no cross legs for this, okay? And then you're going to take your hands and put your palms open like that. When you put your palms open in front of you, it looks like you're ready to give or to receive. So this is one of my favorite practices to do with my students, because in class we're constantly giving each other and receiving from each other. So when and it's built in our minds that when we do this, this signals us to get ready for that. So I feel like that gets them ready for class. So what you're going to do, it's very simple. You can lower your eyes, soften them, or you can close them. I always close my eyes, they're more comfortable, but you do what you're comfortable with. And Sam is going to sound the chime, and we're simply going to roll our shoulders back, relax, take a deep breath in, let it out. We're going to listen for the chime, and that will start just our breathing and silence. breath in, blow it out. Let yourself relax and open your eyes.
I'm just going to give everyone a minute to let that sink in. Come back when you're ready to open your eyes. Feel the difference between the start and the finish of that minute and a half from just sitting with your breath. So why do we use the breath as an anchor? Do you want to talk about that?
Sure. So we use the breath as an anchor because the breath is always with us until the day we die. So you walk around, you have the ability to be mindful and you have a mindful practice, whether you're sitting, standing, running, walking. If you're in a room, you can do it. It's always with you. I tell the kids, if you need a mindful moment for yourself, just make it. And nobody knows you're doing it. You just take that time out. It's always with you, costs nothing, and it has many, many benefits. So it's really good to use our breath as our anchor.
So we're going to do a little activity using the breath as our anchor. If you are able, please do stand up, and you're going to want to move a little away from the people next to you. So you want to be able to step comfortably to your right, back to the center, and comfortably to your left, just one step. So when you think of a boat in the ocean, there are storms that come along. And just in life, we have storms that come along. And the boat can be taken by the waves if it doesn't have an anchor. And we can be taken by our waves if we don't have an anchor, our breath. You're going to take a soft gaze to the floor. Please don't close your eyes for this one because your balance can get a little off. When I ask you to step to your future, you're going to take a step to your right. Just one small step. So if everyone can practice that, just step once to your right. So that's your future. And when you're there, you're going to think about your future. And I'll guide you with that. When you step back into your center, where you started, this is the present moment. Here, you'll hear the bell, and we'll just breathe. When you step to your left, you're going to think about your past. Oh, your past. And I'll guide you through that too. And then again, when you get to the center, you're just going to breathe, and you'll hear the bell. Just take one breath, get centered. And let's start off stepping to the right into our future. We can start thinking about, and I really want you to think about it. What are you going to do when you get home tonight? What do you have to prepare for tomorrow to make sure everyone's ready to get out the door in time? What's tomorrow going to look like? Do you have any big events going on? Really start to focus on everything you have to do. And now let's step into the past. So you're going to take 2 steps out of your center, and into your past. What was this morning like? Was it easy? Was it hectic? Did the cold bother you? Did you have a phone call that was wonderful or not so wonderful? Was the traffic bad on the way to work? Okay, let's go to our future again. Back to your future. What are you doing for the holiday? What do you have to prepare for the holiday? Let's go back to our past again. How was Thanksgiving? Did you make sure that you said Happy Thanksgiving to everyone? You reached out to everyone? You got everything prepared? Everything's cleaned up? Back to the future. New Year's is coming up. What resolutions are you going to have this year? What do you hope to accomplish? What goals must you achieve? Now let's go to our center, our present. And just breathe. When you're ready, you can open your eyes. When you're ready, just open your eyes. And it seems pretty self-explanatory, the way that we go from past to present, past to future, past to future. How important that present, mindful breath is. So we stop ourselves every now and then to anchor ourselves down. When you're ready, you guys can sit down.
So we're going to talk about integrating mindful practice into your life one step at a time. So you've already done tapping. You've done palms up. We've done, what else have we done? Anchor. Anchor? Thank you. I don't have good memory. You can also do mindful sitting, walking, eating, any kind of mindful sensation. So now we're going to talk about one place, correct? So if you have, do you have one for me? Thank you. All right. Does everyone have their stone? Does anyone need a stone? Did anybody not get a stone on their hand? Did you guys get a stone? Yes. Okay. So we're going to use this stone as our anchor. So you've got a job to do tonight. You've got to take this stone and you're going to decide where you want to put it. Where is a good place for you to keep that stone? Some place that will remind you to be mindful. Keep that reminder. So will it be on your desk at work? Not for me. Will you put it, I would probably put it over the doorway to my classroom or the doorway to my home, because I use my doorways as triggers to make sure that as I enter someplace, I'm fully available for whoever I'm meeting there. So I use doorways, but this is something tangible that you have to put wherever you want, maybe above your bathroom mirror when you see yourself brushing your teeth in the morning, and you remind yourself that I'm going to be more present today, I'm going to be more mindful today. So sometimes we need these little things to remind us what to do. So think of a place that is going to be a good place that will be visible to you at all times, that will remind you to be mindful and present as you go through your day.
And you can also think of just breaking that up into little parts. So I started off with just being mindful in my car. And every time I got to my car, I knew I'm just going to be mindful here today. Everywhere else didn't matter, just in my car. And so maybe you want to just pick a spot where you're going to start to say, in this spot, I'm going to be mindful. Maybe it's, your living room, your work desk, anything like that. But just picking that one spot. If the day seems too big as a reminder, then just focus on one spot.
And a car is a good place because oftentimes you're with your kids and driving them. And I think being mindful when you're in the car with them is really important. Sam told me that that was one of her places that she used. So every time I have anybody in the car, but most especially my grandchildren, I remind myself to be really mindful and present to them in the car and also to everything around me, because it's very distracting when you're driving with little ones. So that would be a good place to have it.
All right, so when you get home, think about that. Maybe tomorrow place that stone somewhere, and we're going to be watching you. So, all right, now you have your two hearts. And we're going to practice heartfulness. So just pick one of your hearts. The first one is going to be for someone else. So pick one of them. Maybe you want to bring that heart up to your own heart. Feel free to do that. You don't have to. You can just hold it in your hand.
Anybody else need hearts? I'll come in.
Just wait for everyone. You need 2 hearts.
Everyone else have their hearts?
So you can feel free to close your eyes and bring somebody into your mind that may need a little heartfulness, a little kindness, a little compassion. It could be someone whom you love and they're very close to you. It could be someone who you don't know at all, but you see them passing, maybe in your workplace or in the store. It could be someone that you're really having trouble with and you don't really like, but maybe you know that they just need a little kindness, compassion, heartfulness in your life, in their life. So bring that person into mind. When you really have a good vision of that person, just send them some kind thoughts. May they be happy. Maybe they be healthy. May they be peaceful. May they have joy in their life. Just sit with that for a moment, letting it sink in. And as it sinks in, take a big deep breath. And when you leave here, you could choose to give this heart to that person if they're in your life and in your family or in your home. Maybe even, you don't have to even explain what it is, you can just hand it to them. Or if that person's not close to you, someone you don't know so well, maybe you choose to just put it somewhere where you see it, and every so often remind yourself to give that person a little bit of heartfulness, compassion, and kindness. So when we're ready, we can put that heart down and pick up the second heart. And this heart is for you. Bring yourself to mind. And maybe bring a limiting belief you have about yourself to your mind, or something you're really hard on yourself about. Maybe accomplishing a goal, not spending enough time with your family, not smart enough, just feeling like you just can't get it right. And whatever that limiting belief is, give it love. Give it compassion. Give it heartfulness. Instead of pushing it away, hold it close. And just give it love. and wish yourself, may I be happy. May I be healthy. May I be peaceful. May I have joy in my life. When you're ready, you can take a breath. And when you leave here tonight, put this heart somewhere where you'll see it every morning when you wake up, and give yourself a little heartfulness, compassion, and kindness. Thank you.
So what we have coming up after the winter break in school are 6 weeks of mindfulness for parents. They will be held at the middle school library, and they're just for you. We encourage you, if this piqued your interest in getting more into mindfulness, so that you can practice for yourself, to join us for those 6 weeks. They start the first Thursday, I believe, in January, and it will be every Thursday evening for 6 weeks. It's free, and it will give you at least 1 hour when you have to do nothing and relax a little bit. So that's a bonus, always a bonus. And then the next thing is,
and more information will go out about that through school email. Buildings will push that information out. We want to thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for all of you who made the effort to come out. I really appreciate it. I know Sam does too. This is something we are passionate about, believe in, and hope that it in some way touches your life and maybe helps for the betterment of everyone. So, does anybody have any questions? Yes.
So when you teach this to the students, do you present it the same way you presented it tonight?
Not at this length. We usually just talk about a practice. I share with them what I'm doing, and I use, as I said, I use the palms up often. We also use a chime, and the chime is they listen till they no longer can hear the chime. So it's just it really centers them and gets them ready. We do several different ones. Some of them are more active than not. But I give them a general information about what mindfulness is and why we're doing it. And they always have the opportunity to opt out. So if they don't feel comfortable doing it, it's very uncomfortable when you first started. I'm sure it was very uncomfortable for a lot of you too. When you first started, you close your eyes, especially, can you imagine you're 13 and you close your eyes in a classroom? But they get used to it and they request it. They requested if they're having trouble understanding things. So there was a point we were doing an essay and they weren't getting, one of the things that they had to know about. And somebody said, "Can we just take a minute? Can we take a breath? Can we do a mindful moment?" And I do that often. So it's at their request. I like to use it as a routine at the beginning of the class, but sometimes I feel pulled. And when I don't do it, I always regret it. So I do like to do it. Hope that answers that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else have a question? Yes, Abby.
What time will it be?
Huh?
What time will the sessions be?
It's 7.
The sessions will be 7:30 to 9.
So an hour and a half, 7:30 to 9 on Thursday nights. Book it, Dano. Anybody else have a question?
Do Do
Yes.
either of you use apps at all? Like there's some mindful apps out there?
So yeah, there are some mindful apps, and I do know some teachers who use them. I choose not to. My sense is when I'm teaching my students, I want my students to know how to be mindful in all places, and they're not always going to have that app with them. So I feel like it's my job to really teach them how to center on their breath. Every once in a while, I'll provide stones for students so they can hold that, and that's a beginning. But after a while, we transition to the breath, and I don't use apps.
I do use it, not in school, but I use it for my husband. So I use Insight Timer, and I use it for myself. I pick my granddaughter up every Tuesday, so I have to wait about 20 minutes, so there's several of guided meditations that I use in the car that I can just sit in the line with everybody and meditate, so I use it and I do like it, so that's
really,
it's an individual thing. Mm-hmm. And there was another question over here, yes?
I was just going to make a comment too about that app. My son has had multiple concussions and he has migraines. When he sees people at Children's Hospital, they told him about that app, and it is really
I love
good.
that one.
Yes, because you can have just like 3 minutes. You don't have to do it.
Right.
A lot of those
There's a
things are-
1 minute meditation that I use almost every day.
Yeah.
You
so
know,
that's-
like I used it at the beginning, and that was how my husband, who was not really excited about this, when I came home, I was so excited about my Harvard visit that he couldn't not listen to me. So, you know, I would play the guided app in our family room because that's where I choose as a space. And one day he sat down with me, and then he said he sits and he does about 8 minutes every day, which is good. You know? Yeah. But the Insight Timer is great to get some people started. I think it's awesome.
And help them to sleep. They have a lot of issues.
They do. They have a lot of the ones. They tell you what your concern is, and you can just look at it, and you can do the length of time you want. They have them that go for hours, and one that goes as little as 30 seconds. So
What is the app called?
It's called Insight Timer. Insight Timer. Yep, and it's a free app. Which is nice.
You're both incorporating these in your classroom that you teach a subject in middle school. Is it going on?
Yeah, I teach
in the high school.
Yes, there are teachers in the high school because we're connected with them. There were 12 teachers that took the courses, and I know there are some who practice. Sam and I practice. I'm an English teacher. She's a special educator. But I know math teachers who use it. I'm trying to think. Spanish uses it, yes. So it's being used at the middle school. Not all teachers, but that's okay. You know, any little bit you can get is good. Yes.
Could you just talk about the tapping that we did in the beginning? What the theories?
Yeah, so it's basically the theory of using acupressure points. So it's like acupuncture, but you don't have to use the needle. It's just a pressure point. You can look up the tapping solution. If you go to tappingsolution.com, it's the Ortner family, and they're huge into bringing tapping into schools. They're doing tons of workshops with tapping, and it's really shown to calm kids who are anybody who's very nervous. When you feel nervous, I do it when I can't go to sleep. I'll just go through all the points, and before I know it, I'm asleep. And it's really interesting. The Tapping Solution is a wonderful, wonderful website.
I think there's several books about it now. Our phys ed teacher gave me a book that her partner uses in physical therapy. So I have a book on it also, but I know there are several books out on just tapping. Isn't that wild?
It's really impressive how impactful that exercise was.
It's funny, my special educator that is in my room requests that one oftentimes because it's her favorite one. She said, I just feel so much better after we do that. So I'm like, we can tap today if you want. I also tap. If you ever want to see that.
Yes. Will the class be led by the two of you or some of the other teachers that you've mentioned?
Yeah, no, it will be led by the two of us, and the structure is going to be much different. So it's, it will be, we're much more together. It's not going to be in this type of venue. It's going to, we'll be in circle. We'll be able to go outside and use the courtyard. There will be little activities we do, we'll get into practice, we'll discuss our practice, discuss any struggles we're having in getting our practice going or what's coming up in our life. In terms of mindfulness, there'll be lots, it will be much, very different and very involved.
Any other questions? We're a delightful audience.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for coming. I know it's cold out and I know it's hard to come out at night, but I'm so glad you did. Nice to see all of you.
Thank you.